Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the News Today edition of 17th of October, where we try and make all important news of the day in the most simplest format for you guys to understand. So let's look at the important news which we are going to cover today. First is there has been a restructuring of GST. We all know it. And how exactly it is going to impact the states. So again, we are going to discuss the challenges which are associated with respect to fiscal health of states with these changes. Then recently, International Union of Conservation of Nature IUCN World Conservation Congress 2025 has been concluded in Abu Dhabi, UAE. Then Sundarban's aquaculture model has won Food and Agriculture Organization Global Recognition Award. And Google AI model has unveiled a promising approach to treating cancer. We were also going to discuss place in news, that is Brazil, along with quick updates for the day. So the very first news is we all know about GST, and again GST 2.0 restructuring has been done. So GST is a very classical example of the idea of cooperative federalism, that again states gave up their powers of taxation to the central government. So with this constitution of GST. So initially it was felt that again there would be some amount of loss which will be there with the states if they are giving up their taxation powers. So they came up with the concept of GST compensation tax. So recently this GST compensation tax, which was initially trying to compensate the states for the loss with respect to implementation of GST which might they face, this is going to stop, and that is why it has been used. And again, the whole idea of fiscal federalism, the whole idea of what are the problems which state face with the implementation of GST, that is what we are going to discuss over here. So very important topic for an examination with the topic of fiscal federalism, again on the topic of paper number 3, fiscal policy. So let's look at what exactly are the trends with respect to state fiscal autonomy is concerned. So first one is less freedom to collect taxes. So with the implementation of GST, many of the taxes, again with the whole idea of one nation, one tax came into picture, and there were multiple taxes which were levied by the states. For example, VAT, all of them have been subsumed under GST. So with this, states are basically having this idea that again this has led to less freedom of states as per collection of tax is concerned. And we have something called as GST Council, you know about its composition. More powers are there of taking decisions with respect to GST is there with the central government. That is what state has been telling with respect to the idea of fiscal autonomy. Then mismatch between income and spending. Sir, we are supposed to spend more, but our income is less. If you look at the topics or the subjects on which states are going to spend money, there are subjects, important subjects, for example, education, a state subject, health, policing, all of these are the ones where again policies and spending has to be done by respective state government. And this is a very huge, substantial amount of money is being spent on this. But if we talk about the taxation powers of the state, it is very less. And in fact, majority of the taxes has been subsumed under GST. So with this, there is an idea that again, the big revenues which was there, for example, central government has, or maybe we have personal tax, income tax is there, central government. But again, major spending is being done by state governments, and they do not have big revenue resources, and that is creating an idea of what is called as fiscal imbalance. That is, states are spending more, but their taxation powers and taxation earnings are less. The third problem is less money from central tax pool. So apart from taxation of GST, there are other measures which central government earns money. For example, cess and surcharges. So example, education cess, Swachh Bharat cess, health cess. So these are the amount which are collected by central government, but they are not shared with the states. And that is something states have been telling, that again they are money which is being which is collected by the cess and surcharges are not shared with the states. That is something which they have been telling. Then The next thing is what they have telling, that is, you know about Article 280, maybe the idea of Constitution of Finance Commission, which is the body which is recommending on what parameters the taxes are going to be distributed between the center and the states. So they are telling, the states have been complaining that there has been a unfair distribution formula with respect to the finance commission sharing. So, and because the idea of course is key, maybe sometimes it is being seen that some states who are performing well are not given enough compensation, right? So you must have read the formula or the parameters based on which finance commission is devolving the taxes between the state and the state government. So many a times states have been telling that again, high performer states are not given the incentive of them performing in a very good manner or efficient manner. Then there has been high dependence on central transfer. So there are two kind of transfers. One is, maybe you understand by the idea of devolution, which is being done by the respective finance commission. One is we call as grants in aid. So after the central government, in the idea of fiscal federalism, one is through devolution of taxes, and second is majority of the money is given to states in the form of grants in aid. So many times it is being seen that on an average 44% of state revenue comes from central transfer. So this is telling what, if 44% of revenue which the state is having is coming from central government, they are highly dependent on states. And in fact, some of states, example Bihar, it is as high as 72%. So basically they are very much financially and politically dependent on the center. Why the idea of politically dependent? Maybe, for example, you can understand there are different political parties. Maybe central government is run by different political party and the respective state is run by a different political party. So there are high chances that again there could be a delay in giving grants in aid. So these are the some of the problems which has been discussed with respect to devolution of taxes with respect to state government. What exactly is the way forward? Number one is, sir, simple. Please rethink the tax structuring process, because states are spending on high maybe spending items. So there has to be more taxation powers which has to be given to states. For example, states should also be allowed to maybe get a share of personal income tax, or maybe the whole idea of finance commission, on what basis they are devolving the taxes, that also needs to be revisited. Then empower states more. For example, Canada has a different model of, maybe the idea of federalism is something something which we have borrowed from the Canadian model of federalism. So again, the idea is in Canada, of course, there is this federal government and maybe provincial government. So as the state's government have more amount of money to spend, so they should have more share in the tax collection process. This is something which is practiced in Canada, and that is something which is being discussed, that again we can also go for such kind of process of devolution of taxes. Then we have track fiscal health, because it is very important. Every state is performing at a different level. Every state has different requirement. That is completely acknowledged with the coming up of Niti Aayog. That is, one shoe size is not going to fit all approach. So, but that has to be tracked, and there has to be some index. The index is basically called as fiscal health index of states, which is going to tell us how much financially stable the respective states are, and that is going to help in the matters. If let's say some states is in a distress situation, there has to be some support which has to be given by the central government. So these are the few ideas with respect to devolution of taxes, the idea of fiscal federalism, which you can of course use in your mains answers. Let's see any question which has been asked over here. I think one question was then 2017, 16 we had GST. What is or are the likely advantages of implementing goods and services tax? It will replace multiple taxes collected by multiple authorities and will thus create a single market in India. Absolutely correct. It will drastically reduce, sir. Whenever you see such extreme words in the question paper, you need to understand that again are high chances of these options being incorrect, right? So drastically, of course, incorrect. It will enormously, again an extreme statement, increase the growth rate and size of economy. No. So I think one is the option over here. One mains question again recently asked, again the whole idea of this GA compensation which has been given to the states. Uh, Explain the rationale behind Goods and Services Tax Compensation to States Act of 2017. How has COVID-19 impacted GST compensation fund and created new federal tensions? So maybe this is somewhere, maybe we have stop this compensation. So there could be a question that again, what kind of potential problems could state face with respect to this? What are the possible solutions way forward? That is this article it has discussed. Moving on to the next topic, International Union of Conservation of Nature IUCN has recently conducted a World Conservation Congress in 2025 in Abu Dhabi, UAE. That is why it was in news. So IUCN as a body is very important for your examination. We have discussed it multiple number of times with respect to the in conservation efforts it has been doing with respect to idea of biodiversity, climate change, conservation. So let's see what has happened over there. So IUCN is basically conducting every 4 years. They come together and they have such kind of conferences where again all environmentalists, all environment lovers, protectors, they gather together. Maybe it consists of governments, scientists, NGOs, communities. They come together for every 4 years to decide how to protect the planet in a better manner. So this year it was conducted in Abu Dhabi. So very important, they can ask you recent Congress of IUCN was conducted in which country. That is very important. And what exactly has happened over there? The members assembly, that is IUCN's top decision body, they are meeting together to decide that again how we are going to talk about nature and climate change and how we are going to see them as jointly with respect to these two common problems. So what they have discussed and what they have maybe agreed in this particular conference, let's see one by one. Number one, they have talked about let's make a vision of next 20 years. We are in 2025. So still 2045, how we are going to fight the idea of conservation, climate change, that is being discussed, or a long-term plan has been made to guide global conservation efforts up to 2045. Again, focusing on the ideas of what? Nature protection, number one. Sustainable development. We are also, you know about the idea of sustainable development goals and the whole idea of different climate goals, what we have. Then they, in this Abu Dhabi call to action, they have talked about 5 actions which has to be taken up. Number one, they have talked about we need to reaffirm ourselves that again, a human well-being is largely dependent on the nature, because again mother nature is giving us all basic things. So we need to acknowledge it that nature is the foundation of human well-being. That is one thing. Then number two, strengthening the whole idea of international cooperation, that again everyone should be coming at consensus, everyone should agree on the ideas of conservation efforts, on the ideas of climate change, on the idea of conservation of biodiversity that has been discussed over. That is the idea of multilateralism. Then ensure justice and inclusion in conservation, very self-explanatory. Then boosting the ideas of research and innovation as far as conservation is concerned, and scale up. Everything requires money these days, right? So again, that is our idea that again scale up finance and resources for nature and climate action. Few members have been added in this particular Congress summit. So 100 new members have joined and 6 new countries have joined IUCN. They are Armenia, Tajikistan, Marshall Islands, Gabon, Tuvalu and Zimbabwe. Very important, these 6 new countries, they could be a potential question in prelims examination. What more has happened over here? Let's see. Then they are talking about the policy on synthetic biology. Synthetic biology, you must have seen many times the idea of genetic engineering. So in terms of conservation efforts, how exactly we are going to use genetic engineering, that is also discussed over here, that there are certain positives and negative with respect to genetic engineering. So we are going to balance them out. We are going to maybe go about the idea of using of genetic engineering in conservation of environment in a more practical manner that has been discussed over here. The pros includes it can restore extinct species, it can talk about removal of invasive species with genetic engineering. The cons is it can imbalance, it can create or harm ecosystems in a very unintentional manner. So basically they are talking about usage of genetic engineering in a very balanced and precautionary approach manner. But a probable question prelims could be asked like this: key, what do you understand by synthetic biology? Synthetic biology is what? Basically the idea of genetic engineering. Then they're asking about fossil fuel motions. We again, a motion 042 has been there. We understand the potential impact of fossil fuels with respect to greenhouse gas emission, with respect to climate change. So they are also discussed that again fossil fuel production is a direct threat to nature, and we are not telling you stop its use in the very from the very beginning or in a very moment as of now. In a very gradual manner, we have to phase out the consumption of fossil fuels. That is something what has been discussed over here. Then in terms of wildlife trade motion, we understand many times many of the creatures of animals and plants are traded just by, or maybe specifically animals are traded by the giving the name of pets. So what they have told, that there has to be title rules on commercial trade of wild animals as pets to prevent animal cruelty, diseases, and biodiversity loss. And lastly, they have talked about crime of ecocide, genocide, suicide, we have seen. So, any such step which is a very intentionally creating a very large damage to environment, that is going to be considered as an international crime under International Criminal Court of Justice, ICC. That is something which has been discussed over here. So these are the few things which has been discussed in this particular summit. Basically, basic idea about IUCN, very important. Again, a question of prelims examination. It was founded in the year 1948 with its headquarters in Switzerland. There are approximately 1400 plus members, which includes countries, governments, NGOs, research bodies. India is, of course, a member of it. The governance of IUCN is conducted in two manners. Number one is through Members Assembly, which is the highest decision-making body of IUCN. And secondly, it has a council which manages affairs between the sessions of these Congress. The major tools includes, we know about IUCN Red List, which track endangered species. Then World Heritage Outlook, which is monitoring UNESCO natural sites. And lastly, World Database on Protected Areas, which maps the global protected areas across the globe. So these are the basic understanding facts around IUCN, very important from examination perspective, and very important topic as far as environment and ecology is concerned. The next topic is Sundarban's aquaculture model has won Food and Agricultural Organization Global Recognition Award. Again, a very important topic for environment and ecology. What do you understand by aquaculture? Aquaculture is basically an idea of cultivation of fish, shrimps, or basic aquatic animals. That is the idea of aquaculture. Okay? So Sundarban is in the Sundarban areas, aquaculture is being done, but they had made sure that again we are not destroying the natural ecosystem of that particular area. For example, maybe aquaculture is what? Maybe cultivation of fish, shrimps that requires pond, right? In Sundarbans there are mangroves. So what they have done over there, that they are not removing mangroves, they are not maybe depleting or cutting these mangroves. In the same region along with mangroves, they are doing the process of aquaculture, and that is why it has got recognition by Food and Agricultural Organization in respect to its effort of sustainable aquaculture practices. Again, a very important theme from paper number 3, that is environmental pollution and degradation and conservation efforts. What exactly has happened over here? So by the meaning of this sustainable aquaculture in mangrove ecosystem, again it is basically a nature developed by Nature, Environment and Wildlife Society. Again, important theme you need to understand from prelims point of view, and it has got recognition by FAO for its eco-friendly aquaculture practices. Let's see what exactly has happened. So it is basically a teamwork of the farmers over there, the scientists and the conservationists, who have worked together to grow fish and shrimp without maybe hampering or harming the mangroves. The goal is to make shrimp farming in a more sustainable and climate protective manner. As I discussed, for example, this is a area where again I am going to do aquaculture. At the very same time, there are few mangroves over here. So basically, we require this area to get cleared if aquaculture is going to happen over, if fish are supposed to be cultivated over here. But what they have done, along without removing the mangrove trees from there, along with mangroves they are doing aquaculture, and that is something it has led to a global recognition with respect to sustainable manner of protecting mangroves, at the very same time promoting what do we call as aquaculture practices, and again helping the farmers over particular area with respect to livelihood opportunities. So the idea is maybe to grow black tiger shrimp, very important. If this is a news, you're going to read about them as well. What is special about them? So they are grown in a very natural manner, fewer animals per pond, because if there are mangroves, of course aquaculture will make sure that again there are fewer amount of shrimps grown in that particular area, so that again there is no much use of chemical, let's say maybe sometimes we need extra food, extra chemicals which are being used for aquaculture production. These are not being done over there. So basically they are using ecosystem based, that is working along with the nature without destructing them, in terms of adapting a climate adaptive measures, because mangroves are a very important in the conservation of with an idea of climate change. They are considered as a very good areas of carbon sink, right? So all of this has been taken up into consideration, and again it is getting funding from Global Nature Fund, Nurture Land EV and Mercedes Benz. That is what was in news. And again implementing the idea of integrated mangrove aquaculture. Integrated means along with mangroves we are doing the idea of cultivation of aquaculture animals. That is the basic idea over here. Then what exactly it talks about, why it is special? We have understood it is doing four things in a simultaneous manner. It is protecting mangroves. We are not removing mangroves for aquaculture production. That is something which they have been doing, because mangroves has been considered a very important agent with respect to the idea of conservation of environment, fighting against climate change. It is acting as carbon sinks. It is protecting coast from cyclones. We have discussed multiple number of times. In an eco-friendly manner, we are doing shrimp farming, which is avoiding harmful chemicals and overfeeding them. It is empowering farmers for better training, livelihood, market access, so that they got fair prices. And at the very same time, we are fighting climate change, that is reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, because mangroves are considered as an area of blue carbon by blending conservation with livelihood practices. Very important topic for your examination. This could be there. Basic ideas around Sundarbans. They are the world's largest mangrove forest. It is shared by India and Bangladesh along with the rivers of Ganga, Brahmaputra and Meghna. Very important. Again, a factual piece for prelims examination. They are home to Royal Bengal tigers and a complex web of waterways, mudflats and islands. With respect to India's mangrove, with respect to the datas, West Bengal has the largest share, 42.45%. We have next in Gujarat, Andaman Nicobars, and total area consists of 0.15 of India's land area as far as mangroves are concerned. Again, a basic facts which could be important for your prelims examination. The next topic is Google AI model has unveiled a promising approach to treating cancer. Day by day, every time we are seeing some of the beautiful maybe applications of artificial intelligence. What is ChatGPT? Maybe it understands our language. We give some prompt and it gives us the kind of response with respect to whatever we have asked. What if I told there are complex things happening in our body? Cells cells are maybe breaking out. Cells are maybe developing themselves. What if I tell ki there is a manner or a way through which, through artificial intelligence, where we can talk to our cells in the body? And that is something which Google with this new discovery has done with respect to application of artificial intelligence in the healthcare sector. And specifically they have discovered a very important development with respect to cancer treatment. So cells, or maybe in body, there are different genetic and electric signals which are generated. In our body, cells generate electric and genetic signals. So these electric and genetic signals are studied by the use of artificial intelligence. Now these signals are decoded in the form of simple language which can be understood by us, and that is something we are now in a position to understand how and interact with our cells in the body. So very important development with respect to discovery of maybe cancer disease. A lot of areas is going to be done or maybe helped with respect to this particular discovery. Let's see what has exactly has happened. So a major scale, the model which is being used is C2S scale, that is cell to sentence. Cell, electric and genetic signals, they are studied, and they are maybe decrypted in the form of a common sentence which could be understood by a common person. So it is developed by Google DeepMind and Yale University joint collaboration, and the achievement is they have generated a new hypothesis about cancer cell behavior, because now we can see and interact with cells, we can understand how they are doing things in a common simple language. And lastly, it is very much significant with respect to AI discovery in validated experimentally in living cells. Very important. What exactly is this C2S scale? It is a large language model, LLM, designed for biology. It learns the language of cells, we have discussed. It translates complex biological data into understandable sentences. Very important, very interesting discovery. And it just works like ChatGPT. We talk about, we give some signals of respect to our body's electric and genetic signals. They study it and they decode us in a very simple, understandable language. As simple as that. So why it was in news recently? What this discovery has done, it has identified this that silmetasertib as a drug, which is a very good for enhancing the immune response against tumors. So this discovery was confirmed by the use of C2S scale, which Google has done. It showcases how AI has the ability to move forward from data analysis to real scientific validation. It has validated that how exactly this drug is very effective for enhancing the immune response against tumors. This was studied with respect to this particular technology. Then, in generally, AI as a scientific collaborator, again very important. You can use this kind of facts in your mains examination, that again it generates hypothesis. AI suggests what may work in a biological manner. It validates the tests are done in basic real world lab conditions. It acts like a digital scientist exploring unseen cellular patterns. Then lastly, it is enabling very faster evidence-based scientific discovery. That is the application of artificial intelligence as far as scientific collaborators, scientific discoveries in healthcare sector, in biological sector is concerned. Then in general, how exactly AI is helping in the healthcare sector, we have understood many a times that again it is understanding, now with the recent discovery, it is understanding cellular language as well. So decoding genetic and molecular signals, number one. Again, it is also helping in respect to multiple times, because we have seen the time of COVID, it took very long time for discoveries of vaccines and drugs. But with this AI application, in a very fast, efficient manner, new drugs and vaccines could be discovered. That is a basic idea. So again, it is has a capability of stimulating thousands of drugs cell interactions in a very efficient manner, in a very fast manner. It is trying to give precision medicines. Again, every patient has different requirement, so it is giving a very personalized treatment based on understanding and analysis of a particular patient cell profile. And lastly, patient engagement. Again, there are a lot of chatbots who are helping patients respect to maybe guiding them when to take medicines, basic understanding around how to take care of their health. These are the potential under usage of artificial intelligence as far as healthcare sector is concerned. Very important topic for examination. There could be a potential question from for mains, that again what are the practical applications of artificial intelligence in healthcare sector, which is not yet asked. Again, very important theme of examination. The next is place in news. Brazil was in news. Why? Because India-Brazil business dialogue was held in the presence of Brazil's vice president. So that is why Brazil is in the news. So you're going to locate, it is the biggest country of South America. And except, if you understand over here, except two countries, that is Ecuador here and Chile here, all other countries out of South America are sharing their borders with Brazil. The capital is Brasilia. So you're going to remember all such basic facts. Atlantic Ocean, here we have Pacific Ocean, right? So again, that is the basic idea, but its coastline of Brazil is around what? Atlantic Ocean, not Pacific Ocean. And basic geographical features, you're going to see that again, it covers, again, as the biggest area, it covers majority or most of Amazon basin, which is world's largest river system. And it has having, it includes pampas, that is a dry grasslands. At the very same time, it has Pantanal, that is world's largest tropical wetland, major rivers. You're going to study very important area as far as your place in news is concerned. Moving ahead, going to cover the quick updates for the day. So the very first news is we are going to undersee recently Ahmedabad has been given or has been recommended to host the Commonwealth Games of 2030. Very important achievement for India, and we are celebrating 100 years of inauguration or setting up of Commonwealth Games. It was started in the year 1930. In 2030, we are going to celebrate 100 years, and India has got the opportunity to host this Commonwealth Games. So that is why it was in news. So a recent edition, again, very important. There are multiple angles to it. Maybe economically very good for India. It is going to boost economic development. It is going to create infrastructure. It is going to create employment. It is going to reduce poverty. Many such maybe implications of this particular news, right? So it was inaugurated in the year 1930 in Hamilton, Canada. Basic facts. The last edition was in 2022 in Birmingham. Then again in 26 we are going to have Commonwealth Games in Glasgow, and the centenary, that is 100 years of Commonwealth, we are celebrating in Ahmedabad. That's India is a host city. Its headquarters is in London, and governing body consists of Commonwealth Sport, which was formerly Commonwealth Game Federation. It has 72 nations and territories. The games are conducted every 4 years, and the nature is of multi-sport. Multiple sports are being played over there along different athletes of the world. The next news is India has been elected as a co-chair in UNGGIM Asia Pacific. So basically, uh, UNGGIM is a United Nations body committee on experts on global geospatial information management. It was established in 2011 under UN ESOC. Then again, its purpose is, basic purpose आपको पता होना चाहिए. It is coordinating global geospatial data governance for policy and decision making, maybe the whole idea of maps. And it is promoting the use of map, satellite data, location, technology for global challenges. It has different parts. So the Asia Pacific region, that is, we have UNGGIM Asia Pacific. India has been elected as a co-chair in this particular region. That is why it was in news. The next topic is Scheme for Innovation and Technology Association with Aadhaar. So again, we know about the kind of financial crimes, cyber frauds, deep fakes are in news. So UDAI, that is Aadhaar, under Ministry of Electronics and IT, they have talked about, we are going to stop this problem. We are going to strengthen Aadhaar digital security and innovation ecosystem. So the focus area is how, with the use of artificial intelligence, machine learning, we are going to talk about biometric authentication, and data privacy and advanced biometric security is going to be discussed over here. Why? Because recently we have seen a lot of time deep fakes are in news. Maybe in terms of face authentication, people are using photos and videos for face authentication method. So these are the common problems which are associated, and again Aadhaar is going to get upgraded with respect to the new emerging areas of this particular region areas. So in the pilot basis, they are going to talk about face liveliness detection. That again, whenever you're talking about any face detection, it has to be live person, not any photo, not any video. Similarly, presentation attack detection and contactless fingerprint authentication, all of them has to be is going to be discussed in this particular project. So the goal is to protect Aadhaar from threats like deepfakes, spoofing, and ensuring safe, secure digital identity. The next news is India Mercosur trade expansion. So again, India and Brazil, we have discussed. Brazil was in news. Again, we have also talked about to broaden the relation between India and having a preferential trade agreement between India and Mercosur bloc. So what exactly is Mercosur bloc? This could be a potential question for your prelims examination. So it was established in the year 1991. Its headquarter is in Uruguay, and the nature is basically a South American countries ka bloc hai, which is promoting the idea of free trade and economic cooperation. In fact, India has got a preferential trade agreement with respect to this particular bloc. It consists of countries of Argentina, Bolivia, Brazil, Paraguay, and Uruguay. So Venezuela has been suspended. So member countries of Mercosur could be a potential question for your prelims examination. And the governance is basically done by these three bodies: Council of Common Market Group, and Mercosur Trade Commission. So the idea is to function as a customs union with a common external tariff, advancing regional integration between the countries. The next news is International Union for Protection of New Variety of Plants. So basically, a new report has highlighted that with the growing free trade agreements, many countries are pushing to sign this Union of Protection of New Variety of Plants. I'll explain in a very simple manner. Example, we are seeing that again how maybe genetically modified seeds are being grown. Maybe many a times people are using different methods to produce different new varieties of seeds, and they're patenting them. So the persons who are developing this new variety of seeds are called as breeders. Then there are farmers who use those seeds in the process of agriculture. So now the idea is, as per this agreement, what the agreement says ki whenever a country is signing this particular agreement, the breeders who are breeding new variety of seeds are getting protected, and they are giving a power that they can use them as an IPR, that is intellectual property rights, and they can claim over their own innovation. So with this, what would happen? And we have seen generally farmers, how do they use seeds? They do not go for buying seeds every time. There are some crops which they store, and they store those crops and they use them in the next sowing season as a form of seeds. But once a country is signing this particular agreement, it is stopping farmers from doing so. And that is where there has been some critical aspects, some critical comments on this particular agreement, that again it is not allowing farmers to freely use the variety or the seeds which they have kept with themselves from generations, and it is maybe compelling them to go and buy these breeder seeds, and that is why it is in news. India has not signed this agreement, and the recent news says that again, with the global more free trade agreement signed between the countries, many countries are forcing other countries with whom they have signed free trade agreement to also sign this Union for Protection of New Variety of Plants. That is the basic news which I have explained in a very simple manner. So it was established in the year 1961 with headquarters in Switzerland. The idea is to promote effective system of plant variety protection. So every breeder who is making new variety of seed is going to be registering an IPR to encourage development and improve plant varieties. But as per this convention, it is strengthening breeders' right, and it is making farmers seed saving privilege option for members. Not allowed. So as per India has a different law, that is Protection of Plant Variety and Farmers Rights Act 2011, which is balancing both of them. Clear? The next topic is dopamine and digital addiction. All of you know, and again, we have seen that again how much we are addicted to social media platforms, to our mobile phones. Whenever we post any post in Instagram, we see how many people have liked our post, how many people have commented on our post, how many people have liked our videos, and that is something which is releasing dopamine, a good, maybe good hormone, or a very what we call as hormone, which is a feel good hormone, right? That is being produced in the body, and this is something which is leading to what is called as digital addiction. So digital addiction is somewhere releasing dopamine, which is making people addicted to use these mobile phones or digital means. That is the basic idea, that again dopamine is released whenever notifications, likes and endless feeds, creating compulsive usage of patterns. So dopamine is basically a feel good hormone or a neurotransmitter which is linked to motivation, reward and pleasure. It is released during enjoyable experiences, for example food, success, social interaction, and it drives reward based learning. आपको जितने likes मिलेंगे आपका और उतना मन करेगा कि और photo post करूं मैं. That is how it is getting addicted, and it is a very addictive substance. And externally होता है ना कि एक तो कि आपका brain release कर रहा है, and now some people are artificially maybe secreting dopamine by consumption of cocaine, nicotine, alcohol, which causes excess dopamine surges, leading to desensitization and the whole idea of addiction. So again, digital addiction ka one of the reasons is what? Secretion of dopamine, which is associated with usage of such things. The next topic is state mining readiness index. So again, basically talking about the ideas of whenever we talk about mining, how much state are adapted or maybe compatible or maybe very much in a good manner, talking about the ideas of mines and mineral development. That is given by this particular index developed by Ministry of Mines. It is accessing and promoting states performance in development of non-coal mining sector, not coal, non-coal. Apart from the coal, what are different areas of mining are there, that is being discussed. Kis parameters pe karte hain, how exactly, how in a efficient manner states are auctioning their mines, then how early mine operationalization after the auction, how in a very technically kya hota hai ki after the auction there are some amount of time surveys are conducted and there are a lot of delays, but to make the process more efficient after the auction, how fast mine is getting operational, that is also being seen over here. Exploration thrust, sustainable mining practices, all of these are taken into consideration and states are getting rank on that particular basis. As per the recent index, there are three category of states. In category A, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan and Gujarat are topping the list. In category B, Goa, Uttar Pradesh and Assam. And category C, Punjab, Uttarakhand, Tripura. Basic facts important for your prelims examination. Then lastly, State of Finance of Forest 2025. It is released by United Nations Environmental Protection Program. We are seeing that again forests are getting degraded. Now we need money to protect the forest. How are we spending money on conservation of forest? That is being assessed by this particular report. This report tells ki no sir, we are not spending money as required to conserve the forest. And as far as government and private contribution is concerned, majority is done by the government. Private players are not contributing with respect to the idea of conservation of forest. This is what this report has highlighted. So let's see. The purpose is to global review the public and private forest finance. We have seen the findings are that there is a finance gap of how many? $216 billion. So this is some amount what we need, and this is every year we are falling short of $216 billion. Very large, right? And investment need with going forward with respect to talk about the conservation of forest, we are going to need 300 billion by 2030, which is 3x of what we are having right now, and 6x by 2050. That is something which has been projected. So again, a lot of money is required and we are not having such amount of money. Currently the funding is $84 billion. So again, see, from 84 to 300 is a requirement in the next 3 years. So we are falling in short of huge amount of money as far as conservation of forest is concerned. The funding sources, majority of the funds is through government, 91% of total flows, and nature based. Apart from funding, there are other mechanisms to protect forests. For example, 1 billion hectares of by 2030 and 1.8 billion of 2050 are going to be restored. Then the message is basically conveyed is there is a very urgent need to scale forest investment to meet the ideas of global climate and biodiversity target. And very importantly, private investment is also very required as per this particular report. So with this, we come to an end of today's discussion. All important questions which could be framed from the topics which I have discussed will pop up in your screen. It is very important, once you have read the news, once you have listened to discussion, you solve the questions. Please post your answers in the comment section. It is going to create a very competitive spirit around all students who are watching this initiative by Vision IS. Lastly, Vision has come up with digital current affairs platform, which is a one-stop solution for current affairs problem as per the examination. Please go and explore the website. It is certainly going to help you a lot in terms of your current affairs preparation. With this, we come to an end. All the very best. Have a good night.